Welcome back to the new SEC podcast. I'm Hunter Ziesman here with Randall Ledette Jr. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everyone listening. It's that season. It's also playoff season. The first round has concluded. Saw a lot of good things this round. We saw 2 away teams win. We haven't seen that yet. This is the second year of the 12-team playoffs. We saw Miami, Alabama win on the road. Saw Oregon take care of business. Ole Miss take care of business. We want to break it down, talk about some of our thoughts here. Randall, watching the games, first thing I want to talk about is what's the most impressive team, but any, overall thoughts as you watch the playoffs this weekend?
Yeah, it was fun to see upsets. Sometimes those upsets are not for the teams that we might want to see win here on the new SEC podcast. Obviously we both picked A&M, but it's just fun to see competitive football. We got to see that with Alabama and Oklahoma. We got to see that with A&M and Miami. So I think it was just a good showcase of talent. Malachi Toney getting involved for Miami. We got to see, Latier Brooks make a key play for Alabama. Like a lot of star power. It's like kind of what I took away from this weekend. And some teams that I do believe those 3 of the 4 winners, honestly, all 4 winners do have a legitimate shot to win the national championship.
Yeah. And I think all of them kind of left. They all have a good shot. I think there's some questionability around certain parts of these teams that we can, as we look to the next round, that we can take out of those games. The slow start for Alabama, Oregon giving up, 30 plus points to JMU, or you look at
500 plus yards.
Right. Or you look at, I think Ole Miss is the one team that got in, got out, and did a pretty good job of even controlling the narrative the whole game. Gave up some yards, sure, but they did a good job there. So, it's a good first round.
Yeah, definitely a lot better than last year. Like,
yeah.
Way better first round than last year.
The question we wanted to bring up and ask is, what team was most impressive from the first round of the 8 teams that played? Obviously, most impressive, we're probably looking at a winner here. When we talked about this, I think we have some different picks here, but Randall, who was your most impressive team of the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I might be flip-flopping on my pick here.
Okay.
It's tough because it's like, on one hand, I want to give it to Ole Miss, and I know that like their competition was viewed as weaker in the case of Tulane, but on the other hand, I think it's more impressive to come back down from being down 17 on the road in Norman. So I'm going to say Alabama, but I do think that Ole Miss put together the most complete game. So I'm giving you like a 2-part answer. So why Alabama? You come back, from being down 17 zip. You almost were down 24-7 with that dropped pass from Xavier Robinson. You play lockdown defense in the second half. You really played the momentum. We were texting during the game. There was points in the game where people wanted to see Ty Simpson benched. There was a lot of pressure being forced on him from that D-line with Oklahoma, and they were able to get the running game involved with number 4 at the running back position for Alabama, an area they've struggled with. They were able to kind of get the pass catchers involved. And so I think that when I think about most impressive performance and against the best competition, preparing that team for the rest of the playoff run, you played a championship defense, you got past them. I think that they put together the most impressive performance for me.
Yeah. And I don't hate that pick there. I mean, the start of the game, the first quarter especially, and really, majority of the first half, so unimpressive that as you look forward, it's definitely a flag to take on this team. Like, you can't get out to that cold start against Indiana. Should you make it past that game, you definitely can't do it against, an Oregon or a Texas Tech. It's what they did in the second half of the game that's really impressive, where they almost started to look more like Oklahoma defense than Oklahoma defense did. They were getting pressure on Matier, 15 pressures, 6 sacks on the day. Offensively, Ty Simpson, something that's been lacking over the last few weeks, is being able to step up in the pocket. He started to feel pressure from way too far away, throwing the ball away, getting out of sync. He stepped up in the pocket a little bit better, got the ball out very fast. And that's when Oklahoma had to alleviate some of that pressure. They couldn't keep sending 5, sending 6, because now they're throwing too fast and it's getting us out of position. So I'm impressed with that side of the Alabama team. I think I'm going to go with Ole Miss, though, for who I'm most impressed with.
Yeah.
Because there's been so much talk about the things unrelated to football. To see them go in and play their style of game, completely dominant, almost the exact same score as the first outing, it lets you know that whether Kiffin's there or not, this is a team who can play in the playoffs. Not much is going to change. It's Pete Golden season.
No. Yeah, Pete Golden season. Obviously, they still have the same OC that's going to be going to LSU. But like, I think what impressed me about their performance was you look at someone like Trinidad Chambliss. You talked about them having planned runs for him. He had a rushing touchdown very early in the game. 3 plays to score their first drive. Right, 2 big passes and the Kawan Lacey run up the middle. Very explosive. Business as usual. Just played really well. I think even when Tulane was kind of driving and kind of had their foot on the door, one big pass that got them in the red zone, found themselves in the red zone before. We're able to force field goals. We're able to force a turnover on Jake Ratzlaff, was able to create pressure to, stop what he was able to do. So no, it's a really good pick. And I think people are kind of sliding them. I might be people because of what the spread looked like and what people thought Tulane would bring. But it was overall a great performance. And like you said, drowning out the noise. Pete Golden, I thought he stepped up well in the press conferences and drowning out the noise as a team and just going out there and playing your game, doing what they do, B to A.
Yeah, they definitely limited the scoring because of what they were able to do later in drives. Like how do we stop drives when they're within our side of the field, or how do we get some turnovers here? They benefited from a couple drop passes, but they got pressure on Retzlaff. We're going to preview the Ole Miss Georgia game, but a point of, as you look ahead, defensively, they did let Tulane move the ball a little bit better than I think you'd like to see when you have Georgia coming up. So, but they'll look at that over the next 2 weeks and try to fix that. It's no different than what happened in the first Tulane game. Like Tulane didn't ineffectively move the ball in that game either. They were able to get some first downs there too. So that's about the same. It just, how do we limit the scoring? So it's, at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's not how what you do to get there. You stop the scoring. That's what matters.
And that's how I watch the college football playoff. Like, I think people are so predicated on, okay, how are they playing on defense? How are they playing on offense? Like, what are their holes? And it's like, you just got to win 4 games or win 3 games if you're in the second round. Like the Miami A&M game, I don't think it was super impressive from Miami, but even if A&M won that game 10-3, they just had to win that game, and then they could go play Ohio State and turn it all on. And people would forget what happened against Miami. So I think, with that precedent set, Ole Miss just did what they had to do to win. And I kind of felt that was the same case for Oregon. Oregon putting in their 2s in the second half, they kind of were like, all right, we're up 34-3. This is a 4-round playoff. Let's put our 2s in. If our 2s can't stop this, we'll put our 1s back in. And I think the score kind of reflected that in some capacity with that, 50-34 score.
Yeah. And I would say Oregon, from the impressive standpoint, the offense was firing. I think that this was a game where Dante Moore almost puts himself into consideration for being the first quarterback off the board just from this game alone, and even understanding it's JMU. And I'll say JMU is a good football team. JMU is a good football team. Tulane is a good football team. I think they're supposed to be in the playoff. No, but that's not the point. I think that they are a good football team. So what you do against these teams matters to me because it is a good football team. They played great offensively. They did great defensively at points in the game when it mattered. I'm a little curious about the Texas Tech game, though, now looking at what JMU was able to do, because they were able to move the ball, whether it's 1s, 2s, 3s, or 4s. They could move the ball, and you want to say that the players were subbed out. Dante Moore was playing well until when JMU started scoring. So defensively, maybe that's one thing, but
yeah. And it's interesting for Oregon. I can't remember a time this year where they've been overly stifled on offense. I think they lost to Indiana by 10. I think Indiana had great game control in that game. But they haven't really been slowed down too much. And Texas Tech is really known for their great defense. I mean, they locked up BYU twice. Obviously, they've locked up a lot of teams in the Big 12. So when you have a potential first overall quarterback or top 3 quarterback off the board coming in, when you have a team like that going to play Texas Tech with a good defense, I'm curious if they have the moxie to be able to slow down Dante Moore, because I do think they can compete offensively. I think that I really do believe that Texas Tech, with the way their roster's built and what we've seen this season, they have Big Ten SEC speed. But it's if they can slow him down, that definitely changes things. And with that SEC Big Ten offense, they should be able to put up yards like we saw a Sun Belt champion do.
I mean, I like Texas Tech kind of right out of the gate just because of the defensive side of it. I think it could be something that catches Oregon off guard that they haven't seen. They had a good stretch of not playing JMU, which even though they're a good team, it's a little different than when you go to play a Power 4 school like Texas Tech, who has been pretty dominant defensively all year. The last game that we didn't really talk too much about was A&M and Miami. And one of the questions we had brought up is kind of what went wrong for A&M in that game, because it wasn't really a showing of what they had done up to this point in the season. We kind of, they're 11-0. They play Texas and lose. They play this game and lose. You lose your last two on an almost perfect season. What's really gone wrong for them to have led to this point? I think there's positives to take from the game, but what happened, I guess, to cause this loss here?
A&M is built around the running game. And, this game, they had 89 rushing yards. They couldn't establish the run game. For the second game in a row, Marcel Reed was their leading rusher. And when you got a backfield with Ruben Owens and all these guys, Amari Daniels, Smith, that has been like their like bloodline. And they just couldn't really do it against this Miami team. And then Miami was creating pressure even from a pass perspective. So I think that not being able to get the offense going, this offense that has allowed them to kind of shield an okay defense, is where I think this game went wrong for A&M.
Yeah. I'm going to say that's almost more to Miami's credit as to why A&M couldn't run the ball. They were really stacking the box. Jacoby Thomas, Bryce Fitzgerald, they kind of lived down in the box as opposed to having to play deep. They were like, all right, we'll let you try to throw on us in crazy wind, gale force wind conditions. We'll let Marcel Reed try to throw on us and see if that happens, but we're not going to let you run. And they did that, and it worked out really well with the play calling that A&M came in with. They were throwing short. All of Miami's guys were down there. A third of Reed's passes behind the line of scrimmage. Only one incompletion at that. When throwing beyond the line of scrimmage, only 53% completion percentage. So I think it was the wind. The velocity was a bit of a problem there. They were able to get some drives going. It wasn't like total domination defensively from Miami. A&M couldn't capitalize on the opportunities they did have once they got down the field.
So that second major key, or not to order them, was just really, red zone scoring and scoring on your side of the field. We saw that botch kick. We saw an interception from Reed in the game. Just missed opportunities to finish the deal, to finish the drive. And like you said, their offense was able to drive despite the rushing numbers, but just not being able to finish those drives. And Miami had similar challenges. And I think you could point to some capacity to giving A&M's defense credit to where they didn't do a great job stopping the run, but they were able to make stops when it mattered.
Yeah, they were able to control it. What Miami did is just didn't turn the ball over in those situations when they were getting stopped. Whereas, Reed on the strip sack, things like that. Miami had multiple, 3 missed field goals on the day, but they were able to run the ball in the second half, and that was huge. We were talking about it before we got on here. The one thing that A&M needs to fix in the offseason, and I'd say it's almost the only thing that they really need to fix, because you're going to retain a lot here because you have Marcel Reed likely coming back. He's a good quarterback, even though it wasn't his best day. You got young guys offensively that are only going to get better. Yeah, he's coming back. You got freshman receivers that we've seen all season that have stepped in, later in games or alongside these two all-star receivers. They're only going to get better. You got transfer portal money. You hit great last season in the transfer portal. I'm sure you're going to do it again. You got a great pass rush, good scheme. The run stop has been lacking. It was lacking in the Texas game. It was lacking in this game. 7.2 yards per carry allowed, 9.3 yards per carry when running to the right of the left guard. So you're not going to win in those situations.
And it's a game of momentum. Like, I feel like every time, A&M was in these second down situations or third down situations, you see Mark Fletcher break off for a big 14-yard run. He had that big, 30-plus yard run in the fourth quarter to lead them to that drive where they scored. Even I think Miami picked up on it, and we're like, okay, we'll put Malachi Toney at the running back position and we'll run on the outside, and they scored a touchdown on that play. Mark Fletcher, you talked about, running on the right side, 10.1 yards per carry, 175 rushing yards. I mean, that's hard to beat. Yeah. And they still only lost by 7.
And they had a chance to score. I think if Reed, instead of throwing the interception at the end, would have took off to the left, you're faster than some of these guys. Whether you would have got that edge or not, you still had another play behind that one. That's what I think he should have done. I'm not a quarterback, so I can't say what you're feeling in that moment or what the play call
Right.
situation is. But like, they had an opportunity to score. So while it's so A&M only scored 3 points, they had a chance in the last drive to maybe even go for 2 and run it up. Like,
yeah, I mean, and Reed has made the right reads a lot this season. He's made the right decisions a lot of times this season, and it's bittersweet, I'm sure, as an A&M fan. But you're right; he had the chance to run in that play. The only thing you can't do is turn the ball over, and it's a tough way to go out. And like I said, there's so many missed opportunities where, like, if you make that field goal, you're driving to now take the lead in the game, not just tie it, right?
Yeah.
We've seen special teams be so impactful in the Oklahoma game. Special teams was impactful in this game. Special teams has been such a critical component in the playoffs, in the conference championship game for Ohio State, Indiana, like pretty much determined that Ohio State seeding. Just a big miss. And so what's lost in this game is, like, it was sloppy football, but we got a good finish. Like, we got to actually see two teams playing in high pressure situations with the game on the line and who was going to be willing to step up and perform. And in this case, it was Carson Beck in Miami, and it wasn't A&M. A situation that, these two teams haven't been in too often, per se, of late.
Yeah. I don't think this is the end of A&M. I don't think this is the end of A&M. It's
No,
tough
no,
to get back to this point. I think they're going to be just as fine. As you look towards Reed the next season, I saw someone have an interesting take that I kind of wanted to pair it here, and it was, Marcel Reed is better the less time he's had to think. Whenever they've got the ball out quicker, it's increasingly better. Whenever he has time to sit back and try to make a decision, you've seen that be where maybe trying to do too much, Supermaning a play where you don't have the velocity for it or you overthrow. I think that's something that as you look towards the next season, if you don't develop it, these quick passes, good slot receivers have been a great weapon for him. So it'll be interesting to see how he then transitions that into next season. If he does end up coming back and staying at A&M, like he's saying.
Yeah, ideally he comes back, and I think, he could be like one of the most respected quarterbacks at A&M if he can truly take them to the promised land. I think he's already building a great resume over there right now with what he's been able to do to get them to the playoffs. But he should definitely come back. I mean, he's got the Davey O'Brien in sight. He's got the Johnny Unitas award in sight. I mean, he would have them as a top 10 team start the season off. So definitely a good reason for him to come back for sure.
Yeah. Okay. As we look to kind of some of these other teams here, we mentioned a little bit about Ole Miss. No more Lane Kiffin. You're on to Pete Golding. They looked pretty good in the dominant Tulane game. As you look towards like the future, they're playing Georgia next. If they win that game, you're playing, Ohio State or Miami. It's a tough road for that side of the bracket to get through. Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin, I think they look about the same. I mean, you look at the play calling standpoint, nothing's changed there. They're about even split on pass and rush attempts. They were 54% in favor of run on the season. Not much changes. Fans seem bought in. Players seem bought in. Like, did you see any difference in this team or think there's any difference in this team as they go forward?
No, I mean, we saw their tight end get involved. We saw, their key receivers get involved. We saw Lacey get involved. Like I said, it really didn't. It all looked the same. And I think the question I would ask people is, what were you expecting to change? Like, what is Lane? Like, he's a great coach, but like, what is Lane Kiffin specifically doing that is going to change how these players play on the field? Like,
yeah,
if it takes a head coach to get you up for a home playoff game, you need to do something else besides play college football in Oxford.
Yeah, and I think some people, they had the idea that Lane, being a very aggressive football coach from a decision-making standpoint on going for it, how aggressive you get in certain situations, if that tones back. Listening to Pete Golding talk and the way that he's been firing up this team, I think he might be just, he'll be just as aggressive if it comes down to those situations going forward. Like,
I like Pete. I think Pete is he's very raw. He's very real. He's talked about how these guys are living by the country club and, the motivation piece. Like, it's just real. He's a real coach. I liked how he presented himself this past week. There's still some defensive glaring holes. Like that has been the one thing that kind of, kept them in a close game with, with Georgia, right? Like, if they were able to slow down Georgia, they would have won that game, right? They scored 25 points. Their rushing defense, we didn't necessarily see it get challenged as much against Tulane. Like, I still think that that's a gap. I don't think it gets worse without Lane, but Golden's a defensive guy, so I'm curious if he's made any personnel adjustments or any play style, play call adjustments to really handle this upcoming Georgia rushing attack with how much Gunnar Stockton's been having more planned runs. So that's to me it's still a red flag, and the one thing that's potentially could prevent them from getting to where they'd like to, which is the championship. Like ideally, it's like if you beat Georgia, you almost want to see Ohio State. They're not as much of a running threat compared to Miami with Fletcher.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia right now, 7-point favorites. They'll be playing in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. The running piece is a big component of it. Like Georgia right now is the #1 team in the playoffs for controlling the game by running the football. No one in the playoffs has more rushing attempts than them. No one has a better time of possession in the playoffs than they do. And they're doing it because they're able to run super effectively. They have so many guys who touch the ball from a running perspective. Ole Miss, you can't let them continue to just kind of move the chains on you. 17 points unanswered in the fourth quarter of the last time that they played. Like Ole Miss was in a good position on the road. Now they're in a neutral site here. I see where the spread's coming from. They're going to need to get that a little bit more tightened up for the next round.
Yeah, and I think they should play, like you said, you talked about Lane Kiffin's play style. I think you play aggressive in this game. Like this is a game where if you're on the 50-yard line, maybe you go for it on fourth down. Like you kind of need to strike first in this game. You can't let Georgia, if you're trying to win, get the feeling of momentum, go up 10-zip or something like that. Like I think they really got to play aggressive and play with, hey, look, we're the underdog, we're the lower seed, we got nothing to lose. We've already lost them once. Leave it all out there on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, in the same side,
especially think about especially the way they control time of possession. Like if it's that hard to get possessions, I would be going for it on fourth down if it feels right or if it looks right.
Yeah, and I think that while Georgia is very, very dominant defensively, there is room to get them passing the ball, especially deep. There's room to get guys in one-on-ones that they can win, especially Ole Miss's receivers. There's room to work there. I don't think you're going to have as much success running the ball as you have. Georgia's getting better and better as the weeks have gone on defensively, especially at stopping the run. They're one of the best in the country at that. So Ole Miss are going to have to win some of those one-on-one battles, get aggressive. 7-point favorites here. That will be New Year's Day down in New Orleans, the nightcap, the last game of the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. There's 3 games on New Year's Day. I think there's one on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I'm really curious how they scheme for Trinidad Chambliss now with like game film and more than just a couple games as well.
Yeah, because there was already questions when we did our preview, talking about are the lights too bright for Chambliss in that game. Now we know from that point on, like he's been that guy. I'm not worried about that component. So that's how far we've come from that first matchup to how we're talking about Ole Miss now.
Yeah. So you'd ask the question like any other thoughts? I mean, Oklahoma, obviously tough way to go out. Thoughts on Oklahoma, their season, that game, personnel, offensively, defensively, and just kind of going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think some initial thoughts on Oklahoma is you had such a dominant defense all year. It came to play there in that game. Alabama just somehow got around it there at the end. They were able to move the ball out quickly. I think you were just the slightest bit of offense away from being one of the best teams. It's just the offense needed to be a little bit more dialed in. And I was real emotionally watching the game that I had to go back and watch parts of it to get a good feel of how things happened. Mateer didn't play that bad. No. I think in the moment and listening to Kirk and Chris Fowler talk about it, you would think that he was playing like the worst game he's ever played because they were blaming him for some stuff that wasn't really his fault.
Right.
If it hits your receiver in the hands, you should be catching the ball. I mean, I get it. Okay, right. It's a little bit down. It's a little bit high. He played a good game all in all. It was a good showing, a good season. Sucks that you blew it. But, it's how it goes.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. I mean, we saw Burks get involved and he played electric in the first half. He really warms up when he can run the football. And we saw that in those couple rushing touchdowns early in the game. But it's still a good season. I mean, 10-3. You get a playoff appearance. You beat some good teams in conference years this year with Tennessee. You beat Bama once already. Just a lot of things that worked out in their favor. Just a tough way to go out there at the end, though. Overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Alabama winning the game. You go on to your next game. You play in the Rose Bowl here. We're going to be doing full previews of these games. So this is just kind of some initial thoughts here as we see the lines come out. Where Alabama 7-point underdog in the Rose Bowl game. I think they match up pretty well with Indiana. There's some stuff that they probably need to clean up. Some of those hook zones, Oklahoma was able to get in behind those for the deep safety. That's where we saw most of the action happen downfield, kind of between those zone coverages of the deep safety. The strong safety or linebacker, they were able to work in behind with some digs, some post routes. If they can fix that, then this is a good matchup with Indiana.
Yeah, I feel like that was where Mateer was kind of able to make some of those big second down, big third down plays, like right in the middle of the field. That's kind of coming down to like that coverage between, like you mentioned, the safety, the linebackers kind of being in position. I think that Mendoza, the way he talks, the way he's played, he's definitely really someone who watches a lot of film, can kind of pick apart the secondary. So they're going to match up evenly from a skills perspective, but it'll be interesting to see, what adjustments the defense for Alabama makes when playing against Indiana and Barrett and this really tough receiving core.
Yeah. I mean, they had to plan so much around this pass rush from Oklahoma. We'll see how they go against Indiana, how things maybe confidence-wise boost for Ty Simpson in this game. We're going to be doing full preview of that, so don't miss it. That's a 4 p.m. game. Over-under on that 48.5, but low point total for the second round here. Oregon, Texas Tech, noon game there.
Beautiful slate. Beautiful slate.
Good games all around.
This
is
in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah. This is in the Orange Bowl, down in Miami, where the national championship will be, later, a few rounds after this. Personally, I kind of like Texas Tech here. They're the underdogs. They're the only underdog higher seed of the second round here.
Yeah, I feel like Texas Tech has been valued and underappreciated all season. I mean, you could have made the case, honestly, for them to be the 3 seed or the 2 seed in the playoffs with how they dominated the Big 12, multiple ranked wins. But I like early on, I like Texas Tech here. They have not shown me anything defensively to warrant being concerned about what they can do to slow down Dante Moore. Oregon's got speed. Texas Tech has speed. I think they crush that over-under, personally. I think it'll definitely go over 52.5. But I like Texas Tech in this one early on.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's the noon game. First game is Miami, Ohio State. This is the biggest spread of the second round. Ohio State favored by 10. I think that's more indicative of like what happened in the first game with Miami and A&M, is that there's no way that Miami's going to be able to move the ball on Ohio State. Ohio State, one of the best rush defenses. Teams aren't moving the ball on the ground on them. They're hardly moving it on the air, through the air with them. I don't know where Miami's points are going to come in this game against Ohio State. You said you could see it. You said you could see it here.
I can see it. Well, it's like, I think about it. I mean, Miami was able to slow down Casey Concepcion and somewhat Craver. You're playing Carnell Tate. You're playing Jeremiah Smith. I'm not saying those guys are the same as Casey and Craver, but they've shown they can slow down some top talent receivers. So defensively, you get pressure. There was pressure on Sayin in that Indiana game that played a role in them not playing as well. Yeah. Offensively, like I said, it's going to be tough. I mean, this Ohio State defense with Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs and the likes, it's going to be tough to score on them. Texas struggled. Indiana kind of struggled. But I think Miami has the defense to handle a low-scoring, struggling game. Like, they give Carson Beck the mulligans to be able to be in position to score.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anything from Ohio State in the top games they've played with Indiana and Texas to warrant me thinking that they're due for an offensive explosion early on. Not saying it's not possible, but like I could see it being a similar game like the A&M game.
Yeah. I mean, Miami can get pressure on Sayin, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts in the face of that, something that hasn't really come his way nearly as often as some other quarterbacks this year who have kind of adjusted to that. And we know that Miami can stop the run pretty well. They did it against A&M. They've done it for the majority of the season, barring just a few games. So what does Bo Jackson do for Ohio State in that game? That's going to be a good one. It's down in Texas. I know it'd been great to see A&M in that game just because it's so close to home. And I'm sure it would impact out with A&M fans if they made
the ticket prices would be definitely a lot higher than $96 to start off. I'll tell you what, I'm looking at it on ESPN here, and I'm like, that I can't. I think maybe because it's New Year's Eve, people are getting ready to go out, but $96 for Ohio State Miami is crazy.
Crazy.
Insane.
But that's our thoughts here on the first round and early look at the second round. Like I said, we're going to be previewing these games Drop a comment on maybe, what you want to hear as we look forward to the playoffs. What impressed you from this first week? What team you think has the best shot now, looking at the final 8 here of going the distance? We're doing some additional videos around the playoffs, so be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, so you can find those videos easier when we do post those. As always, I'm Hunter Ziesman, joined here with Randall Ledet Jr., talking college football, talking playoffs. Be here. We post a lot. Don't miss it. And until next time.
Until next time.